Welcome back dear students and viewers on my YouTube channel. In previous video we have seen background of Rabindranath Tagore. As we know he is known as Nobel laureate in Indian literature. Let us talk on about the poem. We are going to learn poem called Freedom. Freedom is requirement of human being. In freedom people will live happily and whatever they want to live with their own level they will live happily. Let's see about the poem. This is a powerful rallying cry for freedom written at time when the people of subcontinent were actively trying to end the British Raj. This is poem called Freedom. It was time of freedom movement in India or other subcontinent. Let's see. Tagore's reformist and radical thought strongly informed his poems. Although it was specifically written in during the Indian independence struggle, it is relevant today as it was then. So today also it is having importance. Due to if we got the freedom, then we are living happily and as per our own level. Let's see. The poem talks of the freedom from fear, from petty tyrannies, and from blind obedience to a master of the show. As the anthem for the independence in thought, action, and beliefs, this poem speaks to us at a moment where we too seem to be blinded and beaten down by various factors and people, from governments to the rigidly destructive dictates of caste and gender prejudice our country, and its people seem to be content to slumber and follow mindless habits without taking the time to question and act for themselves. The poem is in free verse with no discernible rhyme scheme. What gives the poem is strong sense of rhythm and weight. It is repeated assonance and alliterations of certain sounds with strong imagery and no holds barred language. This is a poem that does not allow you to stand idly by. It is not meant to be read for only pleasure. It is called to action. Let us learn the poem. Freedom from fear is the freedom I claim for you, my motherland. Here, Rabindranath Tagore has been insisted on freedom from fear is the freedom I claim for you, my motherland. So we have Indian motherland. That's why it was a requirement of us to get freedom from the Britishers or others. Freedom from fear is the freedom I claim for you, my motherland. Motherland is very important part of our life. So everyone has a native place of each one. So native place shows it is your motherland. You have that attachment with the native place. Similarly here, when the Britisher was ruled here, there was not freedom to Indian people. That's why they had struggled for getting freedom from the Britishers. Let's see. Freedom from the burden of the ages, bending your head, breaking your back, blinding your eyes to beckoning. Freedom from the burden of ages. Here, this is a present context attached by the poet called Rabindranath Tagore. Freedom from the burden of the ages, bending your head, breaking your back, blinding your eyes to the beckoning, call for the future. This is very important. If we want to live happily in our country, it requires to remove the foreigners' rule or regime here. So, freedom fighters had been struggled for the freedom. They have provided freedom to us, and that's why we are living happily in India. Let us see. Freedom from the shackles of slumber wherewith you fasten yourself in night's stillness, mistrusting the star, the that speaks of truth's adventurous paths. Mistrusting the star that speaks of truth's adventurous path. That's why truth is very important part of our life. We are not believing in, or we were not believed in Britishers' rule and regulation. They have just provided basic needs, but we were under the control of themselves. Let's see. Whose sails are weakly yielded to blind uncertain winds, and helm to a hand ear, rigid and cold to that, freedom from the insult of dwelling in puppet's world. So here poet has mentioned that is we were puppet of Britishers. As per their orders we used to work. If they want to stay there, we, even though we have desired to stay our own place, but as per their orders we used to follow. That's why here poet mentioned in last line, freedom from the insult of dwelling in puppet's world. If the Britishers were always insulted to the Indian people, that's why our Indian fighters had struggled and we have got the freedom. This is the result that is known as freedom. Where movements are started through brainless wires repeated through mindless habits. Where movements are started through brainless wires repeated through mindless habits. That is very important. It was the movement started by Indian fighters, Indian freedom fighters, but it has reached to the mindless habits. Let's see. Where figures wait with the patience and obedience for the master of show. Where figures wait with patience and obedience for the master of show. If you are under the control of others, you just have to put a patient and you have to obey the orders of the ruler. So Indian had put a great patient for getting freedom. We have escaped regime of Britishers in India. So where figures wait with patience and obedience for the master of show. Master means here that is the Britishers. To be steered into a mimicry of life. So there was no value in slavery, in the control of Britishers. That's why here Rabindranath Tagore insists on to get freedom from the Britishers. In general way, we require freedom in our life. If we live in someone's control, then we don't have sufficient rights to live happily our own self. It is very simple poem. It is talking about the freedoms. It was the time of the Indian freedom fighters had struggled for getting the freedom of India. It is all about the poem. Let's see another poem in next video. Thank you.